One of the best things to see in rugby league is, the team coming last beating a team coming second. I think I've been doing this for a few years now, and I'm getting pretty good at it. So let's get into every NRL team's biggest upset in the 2024 season. In round number 3 at Bluebet Stadium, we'll see the NRL 2023 Grand Final rematch between the Penrith Panthers and the Brisbane Broncos. On the day, it was the Penrith Panthers winning the premiership, going three-peating in the NRL. But I think the Broncos, this will be their upset of the year. I think they'll get their Grand Final revenge just like Parramatta did to start the season last year, beating the Panthers in the Grand Final rematch. I know it's not a home game for the Broncos, so it is pretty tough at Penrith. But I think that the Broncos are going to get one over the Penrith Panthers after losing the Grand Final. Round 18 should see a fiery encounter for the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs, and I think that their upset of the year will be against a team that was very dominant last season, and I think it's the New Zealand Warriors. I think that the Bulldogs can beat the Warriors. It's very tough to get a read on them coming into the season, but I think it's a massive game for someone like Josh Curran, who was previously at the Warriors as well, and I think that the Bulldogs at home in this game will get the better of the New Zealand Warriors. In round number 11 at Magic Round sees a fiery encounter between a team that the Cowboys have struggled against, especially in recent years. But I actually think at Magic Round, the Cowboys are going to get their upset of the year against a team that I expect to be better this year, that missed the 8 this season, or last season. It was the South Sydney Rabbitohs. I think the Cowboys are going to get this done for the home fans at Magic Round this year. In their first inaugural season, the Dolphins surprised many teams with some victories throughout the season, but as we get into their second season, I think a team that they beat last year, a team that they beat in round 1 to be specific, in Perth, round number 22, the Roosters always seem to come into form at that back half of the season, but I just think the Dolphins might go on a late run and get this win over the Roosters in Perth in a massive upset. I think in round number 9, the St. George Illawarra Dragons will fire up and win one of their rivalry games of the year. I haven't had the greatest record against the Cronulla Sharks in recent years, but I think they're going to win this battle. And yeah, it's an away game. It's at PointsBet Stadium, but I'm going to tip the St. George Illawarra Dragons to get the victory over the Cronulla Sharks at home in round 9 quite early in the season. The Eels seem to have a poor record against the Sydney Roosters. There's a couple of wins in recent years, but if you go back, it's a terrible record. In round number 15, we will face the Roosters at home at CommBank Stadium. And although I think the Roosters might go into this game as favourite based on, looking like a solid squad this season if they can perform, I think the Parramatta Eels are going to get the better of the Sydney Roosters. And Parramatta's upset of the year, yes, it is one at home, but I think it's the Sydney Roosters. The Newcastle Knights had a fantastic season in 2023. Can they replicate it in 2024? Well, I think one of their toughest games will be a trip to Brookvale, and I think they're going to get the win. I think it's round number 19. It's a Sunday 4 o'clock game, and I get the feeling that the Manly Sea Eagles are actually going to be defeated at home by the Newcastle Knights in this matchup here. It's extremely hard to pick a team for the 3-time premiers, the Penrith Panthers. I guess you could say the Broncos, but I have the Broncos winning. I guess you could say the Parramatta Eels because they've had their number. And, the Penrith Panthers have had their number over the South Sydney Rabbitohs. But I'm going to go the South Sydney Rabbitohs here because I think they'll be a pretty good team. And playing at a core stadium, I think, will make it tough. But I think that the Penrith Panthers will get their best win of the year over the South Sydney Rabbitohs and may just go into the game as underdogs. We'll see. So this is a bit of an upset here, but I actually think in round 22 that the Canberra Raiders will go to Belmore against the Bulldogs, who are great at Belmore. They're a different team, and they'll beat them. There's not much hype about the Raiders coming into this season, and I don't expect the greatest season for them, but I actually expect them to go to Belmore and beat the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs, who will be sure to improve. One of the best games in the NRL, if not the best game of the NRL, is the Roosters and the Rabbitohs. It's the oldest rivalry in the league. It's a very exciting, high-thrilling match every time these two teams meet. And I think in round number 3, the Sydney Roosters are going to get an upset win over the South Sydney Rabbitohs. I know that the Roosters are at Allianz in this game, but I think if the Rabbitohs start their season well and the Roosters go into this one as underdogs, this is the game where I see the Sydney Roosters collecting 2 points. In round number 12, on a Friday night, there is something about Friday nights and the Manly Sea Eagles defeating the Melbourne Storm. It always seems to happen on a Friday night. When the Battle of Brookvale takes place on Friday night at Brookvale, it just seems to be in the Sea Eagles' favour. So I'm going to go with the Sea Eagles upset of the year to beat their rivals, the Melbourne Storm, in this match at home. I think that the Cowboys could start the season really, really well. But I think that the Sharks will hand them a loss at round number 7 at PointsBet Stadium. I can't say whether I think for sure if the Cowboys will make the top 8, but the Sharks need to beat a top 8 team in order for this pick to be an upset. And I think if the Cowboys hit form, hit the ground running at the start, that they could go into this game as favourites, and the Cronulla Sharks at home could get a much-needed win. Round 23, the Rabbitohs will defeat the Melbourne Storm. The Rabbitohs seem to have the Melbourne Storm's number in the last couple of years, winning back-to-back years for the first time, I'm pretty sure in the club's history, if not for a long time. But yeah, I think that the Melbourne Storm will be beaten at Accor Stadium, and the South Sydney Rabbitohs will get this upset win. For the Melbourne Storm, I've got the Cowboys in Townsville. I believe this is round number 26, one of the last, if not the last round of the season. But a trip to North Queensland is always tough for teams in the NRL. And if I'm right about the Cowboys, and I think they're going to be somewhere between 6th and 11th for mine at the moment. But if they are a top 8 team and the Storm are a little bit lower down the ladder, then I think the Storm could pull off the upset here and get the win in Townsville. In round number 16, at home, Cbus Super Stadium, I think that the Gold Coast Titans will get the win over the New Zealand Warriors. Going to be tough for them to get the win on Anzac Day in that new matchup over in New Zealand. But I think at home against the Warriors, that the Titans are going to aim up for this game and get a nice win over the New Zealand Warriors at Cbus. For the New Zealand Warriors, I've got the Storm in round number 15. Now, I know that the Warriors would want that Anzac match for the Storm to come over there and play them, but the Storm said no, and they will meet in round number 15 in New Zealand. And I think the Warriors, could blitz them. I reckon the Warriors just getting this game against the Storm in New Zealand is massive for them, and they're going to put on a show for the home fans against a side that has been very dominant against the Warriors in recent years. Although they put 70 points on the Tigers, I think the Cowboys are going to get beaten by the Tigers once again at Leichhardt. I think they're going to have some jitters heading there, and regardless of how good they're going this season, I think the Tigers at Leichhardt in round 22, I think it is, are just going to get this win over the Cowboys, regardless of how these teams are. If the Tigers are towards the bottom, if the Cowboys seem to be coming 5th, I just think that the Tigers are going to get the better of them, shown what they were able to do last year, scoring 60 points at Leichhardt. The Tigers love playing at Leichhardt, especially recently, and I think they're going to beat the Cowboys by a nice margin. So guys, let me know in the comment every team's upset in your opinion for the season. Looking forward to the 2024 season ahead, putting out my ladder prediction, previews of teams and other videos throughout this off season. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. Check out my other videos if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys later.